Welcome in to another edition of the Hang Time Podcast. Stop the presses, whatever else you had going on. Sekou Smith here in Atlanta. My main man, John Schumann in New Jersey. John Hartzell behind the glass. We have breaking news. Delayed a bit here for the podcast, but before sunrise, Anthony Davis's agent, Rich Paul, informed ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski that AD has no intention of signing a Supermax extension with the New Orleans Pelicans, and that he is formally requesting a trade just 10 days before the NBA trade deadline. We normally talk about NBA.com's power rankings and other things, various topics from around the league, the weekend games we saw, which there was an outstanding Warriors-Celtics game on Saturday night, a great Bucks-Thunder matchup on Sunday. But all of that news will have to wait until we get done talking about Anthony Davis. Shu, what's happening? Were you even up? Did you have your glasses on when you found out about it?
It was Power Rankings Monday, so I hadn't gone to bed yet.
So you were already up and waiting on it?
I was up, not waiting on it. No, it was the timing of it was surprising, though I guess not necessarily with hindsight. Is it that
we've known this has been coming at some point? I just was surprised that it happened on Super Bowl Monday. And I mentioned that on Twitter, and some guy says, well, I don't know what the Super Bowl has to do with it. Dude, it's the Monday of the week of the Super Bowl, and this news drops, overshadows everything else going on today, even the Super Bowl. This is a potentially seismic event for the NBA when you have a player of Anthony Davis's caliber requesting a trade formally. I mean, I do love that about today's NBA, Shu, is that nobody is afraid to be the villain. These players superstars are like, fine, you want me to wear the black hat and ask out, before my contract's up? Fine. But I just thought it was pretty bold. And in my mind, I kind of respect Rich Paul for doing it now. Is why play games with the Pelicans? If you know Anthony Davis has no intention of signing that Supermax and sticking around there, why mess around? Why even bother playing the role for the next, few months or the next however long, when you can just make it clear what your intentions are and get to the business of getting it done?
Yeah, and I think the timing of it makes it clear that the intentions are to get Anthony Davis to the Lakers.
As we thought all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's just address the Celtics issue. The Celtics have the best collection of assets in the league when you count the young guys on their roster plus draft picks that they're holding on to. But they cannot trade for Anthony Davis between now and July 1st because Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving both have the designated player exception contracts, and you can't trade for two guys.
The Rose Rule, basically.
Yeah, basically. And so Boston can't sort of get in the bidding unless they were to include Irving in the trade, which I assume they do not want to do. They can't get in the bidding until July 1st when Irving has, we assume, opted out of his contract in order to become a free agent, and then
right.
We assume signing a new contract with the Celtics. So the timing of it allows the Lakers to push for a trade in the next 10 days before the Celtics can even get involved, really. And so that's the timing of it from Davis's side of the scenario. And
I mean, we all know that Boston has a treasure trove of assets, but what if AD has no intentions of signing up long-term with Boston if they were to trade for him? So why? I mean,
well, this is a great, and Nate Jones, I'll give credit to Nate Jones for making this point on Twitter. I think he made it even a couple of weeks ago, and then he made it again today, is if, say, you're Boston or another team, first of all, the Pelicans have no obligation to trade him.
None whatsoever.
They can say, hey, we like Boston. We want Boston to get in on the bidding, whether it's because they like what Boston could potentially offer. And of course, they can talk to Danny Ainge between now and then. They just can't do the trade, or because they want more leverage with Boston in the mix. But the idea that Nate Jones brought up, which is interesting, is say you're Boston and Davis wants LA. He's not going to sign. He says, no, I'm not going to sign with you in 2020. Don't trade for me. Or you're another team that has some the potential to trade for him. Mm-hmm. The Lakers want him now. Here's the thing. If you trade him and you say, no, we're going to keep him to 2020, mm-hmm. and yeah, he can become a free agent in a year and a half from now. What are the Lakers going to do in the meantime? Are the Lakers just going to sit around and wait? with LeBron James getting a year older, LeBron James, who has now missed more consecutive games than he ever has in his career. So basically, this is the worst now having just suffered the worst injury of his career. Basically, they're going to wait another year and just play it and just play out with what they have. Sign Lance Stevenson and JaVale McGee and Rajon Rondo to one more another year of 1-year contracts.
Oh, why would they do that?
Well, that's the thing is you put the pressure.
No, but I'm saying why would they? I mean, even if under that scenario, even if
you tell Lakers, yeah, you do it. Let's see you wait it out another year.
But I'm saying AD's not the only potential free agent in the mix in the next couple of years. I mean, they could pursue other guys if that would happen.
Right. So then the Lakers now they pursue Kevin Durant
or whoever. I'm just saying there's somebody else,
right? Or Jimmy Butler. Okay, but now they don't have the ability. Now they lose the cap space to sign Anthony Davis in 2020, and so now the place he wants to go can no longer sign him, and you've got him.
But Anthony Davis could do the same. He could pull the same power play on whoever trades for him.
Okay, but where's he going now?
I'm just saying it's up to him though. It's not up to we've said this about every guy that's demanded a trade, right?
Right, but
Kawhi, Kyrie, you know what I'm saying? Go down the list of guys. Jimmy Butler, everybody.
He wants to go to the Lakers.
Paul George.
If you tell the Lakers, wait it out.
But none of these guys have gotten traded to the team that they were reportedly asking to go to, right?
Right.
So Anthony Davis they're gonna operate under that assumption anyway. That you're not going where you want to go. I think that's why Rich Paul has been so deliberately vague in the request. They mentioned that he wants to go to a team where he can consistently compete for a championship. Well, let's ask ourselves a question under the influence of truth serum. How many teams have legitimately contended for championships the last 5 years?
3.
Cleveland, Golden State, Houston, Boston. Yeah. I mean, there's been like 5 or 6 teams that legitimately had a chance to go play for a championship the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
So we already know that is clearly vague, false information that they put in terms of that's a very healthy pronoun they throw out there about, just want to go to a contender. Well, that could be a lot of things.
So what are you trying to say? I don't get it.
I'm saying it doesn't matter what their request has been and what Anthony Davis's desire is. We all think he wants to go play for the Lakers. We know that. They didn't jump into this mix today thinking that the Pelicans are going to, hey, well, let's get you to the Lakers. They know that's not going to happen. I mean, so there's contingencies for all of this. But none of it hinges on the Pelicans not moving. Like, he's getting moved. We know that's going to happen. Where he gets moved is the question. The real crux of this whole thing to me is have the Lakers learned the lesson from the Paul George situation? And have they decided, you know what?
Yeah, so that's the fascinating thing. If he gets traded
somebody's got to go in order for us to get
somewhere else between now and July 31st or something. What do the Lakers do?
My thing is the Lakers it's a fire sale. You got to be ready to part ways with basically everybody but LeBron.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're hell bent on getting Anthony Davis,
absolutely, or Kevin Durant, let's just say as Plan B,
or whoever you're trying to get. Whatever you've already been burned once, though, in terms of pursuing a guy that you thought you had locked down in Paul George. You can't let AD go to Boston, even if AD says now, I don't want to go. I'm not signing long term in Boston. And he's not going to say that publicly, obviously. But even if that's what's on his mind, that he wants to go to LA, but you're not going to say that out loud. But we all assume that. Well, you can't let AD go to Boston.
So you basically
for any length of time and run that risk if you're the Lakers.
So you basically throw Ingram, Ball,
everybody.
Kuzma,
first round whoever has to get
into the deal now, like right now, and you try to put the Pelicans' feet to the fire between now and February 7th.
Yes, if I'm the Lakers, this is the power play. This is the moment to really execute the leverage you have as the Lakers. If you know AD wants to come and put on a Laker jersey, then you make it impossible for the Pelicans to say no right now, with full understanding that you not only have to move Anthony Davis at some point, if you don't move him sooner rather than later, you have to endure the funky process of what to do with him in the meantime when everybody in the basketball universe knows he wants out of there.
Send him home. I say right now, no matter what, if I'm the Pelicans, he's not playing for the Pelicans again. Even if he's healthy, and even if I want to wait until the summer to trade him because I want to talk to the
So you're
Celtics.
saying Anthony Davis has played his last game in the Pelicans uniform of John Schumann?
That's what I would do. Yep, that's what I would do.
That would take some.
What's the
that would
point?
take some stones to do that now.
Give me one reason why he should play another game for them.
No,
They're not in the playoffs.
yeah.
Right?
No, you make a great point.
They are not in the playoffs. The most, they may get a pick or two in the trade, but as important as any pick they get in the trade is their own pick in 2019,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And they're in the mix of the standings with a bunch of teams that have like 20, 21, 22 wins right now. So they can definitely increase their odds of getting a top 4 or 5 pick or whatever by losing more games. And this guy, 1, doesn't want to be there. 2, he's hurt. 3, like I said, they're not in playoff position. Their defense has been terrible. Their defense has shown no signs of getting any better. 3 other guys are hurt. Randall's banged up. Mirotic is banged up. I have seen no reason for him to play another game for the New Orleans Pelicans, even if he's healthy, if he's perfectly healthy, and even if I'm not going to trade him between now and February 7th.
How does he walk into that locker room now with this news out?
I don't know.
And anybody take him serious as the anchor of that team?
It's fast. I don't know.
Like if it was your teammates and this is what makes sports so crazy, shoot, but this also makes the NBA really unique it's the one sport where the players, and maybe it's just recently, I don't know if it's always been like, but man, the players just they don't have any shame about taking the power now into their own hands. And you can blame whoever you want for this or credit whoever you want for it.
This one's a new one, though, I feel like.
This is beyond even LeBron or whoever, dictating their own destiny. This is a monster, because there's going to be a bunch of small market teams that are upset.
I mean,
that, yet again, a superstar player is forcing his way out of a contract or
we can get
out of a city.
We can get into some deeper repercussions for this. Is one, what happens with other guys on the Pelicans roster, guys like Drew Holiday,
yeah,
Mirotic, who can be useful to other teams. Are they now on the trade block?
If you're New Orleans, everybody you have to literally tear that thing apart potentially.
2, what does this mean for Alvin Gentry? 3, what does this mean for Dell Demps? And 4, what does this mean? I hate to say it, but what does this mean for the future of the Pelicans in New Orleans?
Yeah. Well, look, you know what, Shu? This is the cold, harsh reality of the business of basketball that teams like to tell players about when they trade them, right? It's the business. This is the business. This is part of, and if this is a new dynamic in the business, a player, and not everybody can do what AD or LeBron or Kyrie or Paul George, like there's a couple of handfuls of players with that kind of leverage and that kind of power to go to the organization and let them know I plan on walking when I have my opportunity. Just want to let you know. A lot of organizations are like, we don't care where you think you're going. Because in the marketplace, you might not have the leverage to go out there and command what these guys will command in the free agent market. But everybody knows you can hate AD all you want. If he's available, there are 29 other teams on the phone.
And it just tells you that with any star player, like you're on the clock from
for the minute you get drafted,
day one. And Howard Beck wrote about this in Bleacher Report, I think a month or two ago, about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like he's a year behind Anthony Davis in this whole timeline. And so, the Bucks are on the clock. Now we know they're very good, and we're obviously we're gonna see how good they are in the postseason. But once this postseason's over, and all 4 of their other starters become free agents this summer, the Bucks are under some pressure to keep what they have going or make fixes where they need to make fixes once they see how they do in the postseason. With Antetokounmpo able to do the same thing that Davis is doing right now, 1 year from now. So
I would argue that Giannis's situation is slightly different only because he's experienced some playoff success, at least getting there, and competing a little bit. Whereas the Pelicans,
they won a playoff series last year.
That's what I'm saying. But it's the first time in AD's career they even did that.
Yeah.
They hadn't been competitive until last year when they went to the playoffs. They got smoked the last time.
They're also in the Eastern Conference where it's.
I know. It's just, but I'm saying that's what makes it different.
It's easier to stay afloat, whether that's afloat in the top 4 of the East or just the top in the playoffs. The fact that the Pelicans have Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday, who's been terrific for the most part, and aren't in the playoff picture in their own conference is just brutal.
Let me ask you this. If you're looking at the situation and saying this is the ideal spot for Anthony Davis now that we know that he has no intentions of sticking around in New Orleans. And let's be very clear. Rich Paul, who's Anthony Davis's agent, who is also the agent for LeBron James and head of Clutch Sports, this is the way he communicated this to Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN. And I want to be very specific at how we phrase this and be verbatim in our recitation of what was said. According to Woj, ESPN, Rich Paul said, quote, Anthony wants to be traded to a team that allows him a chance to win consistently and compete for a championship. Anthony wanted to be honest and clear with his intentions, and that's the reason for informing them being the Pelicans, of this decision now. That's in the best interest of both Anthony's and the organization's future. So if you're diagnosing this issue just clinically, where's the best basketball fit for Anthony Davis to achieve the things his agent says are priority number 1 and 1A on his list?
I mean, Golden State, you can go team up with Steph Curry for the next 4 years. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Anthony Davis. Put that. So
the Warriors to just move Boogie, KD, and Draymond and Andre Iguodala. I mean, they got to move some people.
Yeah. I mean, I think Boston is a great spot, but I mean, the timing of this makes it clear that they don't want Boston. Like, really, it does. Like,
yeah, and that's what that was my point earlier.
Great with Irving and maybe one of the other, either one of the Tatum Brown, like Marcus Smart, like just, the depth that they have and I think Boston would be, and it's in the East, so it's a little bit easier to believe that you're going to, come out of that conference year after year for,
But I'm saying if a guy, and this is what I'm talking about, this is what the wrinkle I was trying to get at. Like, even if it makes sense to us looking at it from a sterile, real clinical, detached point of view, if a dude doesn't want to go play somewhere and he's got the leverage that Anthony Davis has, and I'm the Celtics, you've either got to have a colossal amount of confidence in your culture as an organization. And if you're Boston, why wouldn't you? You got the history. You've got all these assets, as we talked about. You have organizational infrastructure that says we will compete with championships with players of your caliber in our organization. You have all this, you have everything going for you. But if I'm Anthony Davis and I don't want to go play in Boston, how do you make that okay? Like, how do you make that work if you're Boston? I mean, you're basically stuck in the same position, even with assets, that New Orleans is at the end of the day, if that said superstar doesn't want to play there.
Yeah.
And this is why I think it's like, I think these teams, whether they realize or not, whether they like it or not, these owners, you're at the mercy of the truly elite superstar players. And there's only 8 to 12 of them with that kind of leverage running around the league right now.
You know who's going to come calling? What general manager out there is going to come calling for any trade idea?
Who's that?
My friend Daryl Morey. And
why wouldn't he? And I agree with him.
The package would start with Clint Capella.
Yes.
And Eric Gordon and some picks.
If it's the Wild Wild West shoe, then you better show up with your 6 shooters and take your shot.
Sure.
Why wouldn't you?
Sure.
Why wouldn't you? But I'm saying, even if you trade for him now, you have no guarantees that he wants to stick around at your place. Like, if you're Danny Ainge, you can move you can do all this stuff. You got all these assets.
Right.
You don't have any guarantee that Anthony Davis wants to stay long term with you.
Right. But like I said before, you can put that pressure on him and say, hey, you stick, or you're going to be here for their next year. Let's see what the Lakers do in the meantime and see if they're willing to wait you out,
Yeah.
Because LeBron's only getting older,
I mean, maybe you put LeBron, if you're the Lakers, maybe you let LeBron rest for a while. Shut him down.
He's got a 4-year contract with the Lakers. They're going to go through 2 years of that without getting the next superstar and waiting for Anthony Davis. We'll see, I
mean, I've heard New York tossed around shoe there. There's all these theories out there now that, this could happen, that could happen. And, the Knicks could trade Porzingis and that. And I mean,
Porzingis is a restricted free agent.
Right. At the end of the day, though, my only lingering thought in question about this is if Anthony Davis has made up his mind that he wants to play somewhere, there's really no way of stopping that if as you said, the team is willing to be patient and acquire him in whatever fashion they have to. And if Anthony Davis can't be convinced otherwise, the way Paul George was. Like, we don't know what Kawhi Leonard's intentions are. Everybody's got a theory.
No.
We don't know for sure.
One of these teams, like a New York or a Brooklyn or a Clippers, perhaps. I don't know what the Clippers have as far as prime assets to offer. I don't even, the Nets sort of don't have a Porzingis type star on their roster either.
No.
Could say we're going to trade for Anthony Davis now, and we're going to use him to lure Kawhi Leonard or Kevin Durant or Jimmy Butler here in the summer.
Yeah, I guess you could try all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean that's just a theory, like a team like that who does even if they traded for Anthony Davis right now, they're not a contender, right? Because heck, the Pelicans aren't a contender with Anthony Davis and a decent enough supporting cast. But they could say, okay, we've got you, and now we're going to go get Kevin Durant in the summer. And then they have Kevin Durant and Anthony Davis, and that's a foundation for contention for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. I almost, and this sounds crazy, because we're talking about generally billionaires who get whatever they want when they want it. I kind of like that Anthony Davis is in control of this.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time,
I do like that a player is in control of his own destiny at some point, because they only have 1 or 2 times really in their careers, in the primes of their careers,
I have no problem with it.
When they have that leverage.
He absolutely has the right, and good for him to exercise it. And the same thing with Kevin Durant. But I'll say the same thing with Kevin Durant. Selfishly, I want to see as many teams in the league, as many of the 30 having a star player, Mm-hmm. And so selfishly, I would love Kevin Durant to be on a different team right now. I'd rather him elevate some other team from a 3 to a 7 than elevate the Warriors from a 9 to a 10. You know what I mean? Like, for the sole purpose of numbers, for having more quality teams, right? Yeah, sure. Just for parity, not parity and competitive balance, as Adam Silver would say, Right. The other thing that the other element to this is, speaking of competitive balance, is that whole Supermax contract has basically done nothing. Guys have avoided it more than chased it. Which to me, and this is where we go in different directions. Like, I think competitive balance has been overblown, in terms as a theoretical way of making the league better. Because even when we didn't focus on that phrase and that ideology shoot, did we really have competitive balance? Did we have competitive balance in the 80s? Do you really think we had? No, not at all. Parity, like, we didn't, right? So, like, not at all. But like, I'm just, as someone who watches every day, and every team every day, it's tough to watch a team like Orlando that has just been done nothing for 6 years and just has But my argument is themselves, having a star and just not being able to get there, or, Sacramento obviously being terrible. Like, seeing Sacramento win games this year has been so fun, just knowing where they've been, basically. I know, but this is my only complaint about it. If we set the table, if we give everybody the same set of silverware, and then we put the food on the table, and some people know how to make a better plate than others, or some people got lucky. You got the for sure the right piece of chicken and didn't, Like, for sure. And you can't manipulate this competitive balance or this parity that I think everybody wants. For sure. But 4 years ago, I wasn't complaining about the Warriors having too much talent when it was Curry and Thompson and Draymond Green and Harrison Barnes, right? And I don't think anybody really was. But there's a limit to there's a fine line between that and then also having Kevin Durant, I guess. And so I just don't like this hypocritical notion that everybody wants the system. They want a capitalist society until it looks too good for somebody else. It's like, hey, I'm sorry that Kevin Durant decided he would rather play with the guys in Golden State as opposed to staying in Oklahoma City. It turns out Oklahoma City may get the last laugh anyway if they get a chance to get their hands on the Warriors in the playoffs. We don't know that. But I'm saying
there is life after what looks like the worst thing that could happen.
Oh, sure. They've done a
So
fantastic.
I would tell fans in New Orleans, that as bad as this seems right now, and they've had a rough couple of weeks here. Their football team probably should be in Atlanta playing for a Super Bowl this week, if not for one of the most horrendous non-calls in the history of officiating.
Did they lose?
And then on the Monday morning of Super Bowl week, before you've even had your beignets and chicory at Cafe Du Monde, before the sun is up, before those street sweepers are finished cleaning Bourbon Street up, this news about Anthony Davis wanting to be traded drops. And for one of the most unique and culturally rich cities in this country, for them not to be able to put together whatever it took to keep Anthony Davis there and to be a successful team built around him, it is a head scratcher. It is mind-boggling that they weren't able to figure out the pieces. But it only reinforces this thought in my head, Shu, of how difficult it is, even when you think you have the pieces in place to do these things, how difficult it really is. It gives me a greater appreciation for what Golden State has done, for what the Celtics are attempting to do even before this Anthony Davis situation takes whatever turns it takes, for LeBron and the impact he has wherever he goes. I mean, if you want to win at a championship level in the NBA, you not only have to have all your pieces in the right place, you got to be damn lucky, Shu, that it goes right and that nothing happens to derail it.
I'll tell you what it gives me a little bit of appreciation for is stars that consistently lift their teams up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still look at Anthony Davis now and think that there's something missing with just putting it all together. I mean, there's not it's a ridiculously tantalizing combination of size, athleticism, and skill.
Yeah.
But as tough as it is for, New Orleans to lose him, exactly how much did he do for that franchise as far as postseason success? Not much, right? I mean, you said it yourself. I still feel like there's something missing with this guy as far as just lifting his team up and getting the job done. And, I thought I saw it in the second half of last season when DeMarcus Cousins went down. I thought he turned a real corner as far as just playing with a different kind of an intensity, attacking all the time. But I think we lost that a little bit this year. The injuries is baffling, just the amount of
that's always been a part of it.
Amount of games that he's missed to wide variety of different injuries. It's weird. Like, I don't necessarily blame that, put that on him. It's just a thing that you're going to have to deal with Anthony Davis. But like I said, I feel like there's just a piece missing as far as winning basketball games consistently.
Well, you bring up a great point, and I'm going to point out a couple things to you now that I think refute that. Did you have the same concerns about James Harden in Houston before Chris Paul showed up?
It's a good question.
I'm saying, did we have those same
before Chris Paul showed up? No, I thought that year before he was
because he was outstanding
MVP count. Yeah. I mean, I voted him for MVP the year before, so no, I did not.
And I granted the Rockets did make a conference final. Like, AD has not had the sort of success that James Harden has had in his career in the playoffs. Like, AD's never had that level of success. But to me, there has to be. Like, I'm not mad at AD because Boogie didn't work out in New Orleans. Boogie got hurt, and the Pelicans decided to go in a different direction. I know the explanation has been different. That's on the Pelicans. Like, I put more of the onus on not building a quality playoff caliber team, consistent playoff contending team around AD on the Pelicans more than I do on Anthony Davis. And that's not saying Anthony Davis doesn't bear some of the responsibility, but you got to do what the Warriors did when they got a chance to contend. They put a team together and then kept building, finding ways to make it better. You got to do what Cleveland did, give them credit, when they did get their hands on LeBron. They moved heaven and earth, even if it was short-sighted in terms of their long-term viability. They did what it takes to compete at the highest level when they had the asset, and the asset being that star player.
Here's a question for you, though. I mean, you saw Anthony Davis in the second half of last season and in that first round,
was outstanding. Yes.
First round playoff series against Portland. Do you think he was the same player this season?
No. But do I think his skill set has changed? No. Do I think his effort has waned or that he's been less than inspired to be, the same players always been? No, I just think players, no matter what, are very conscious of where they stand in this league, and what the pecking order issue, and what's realistic and what's not. And I'm telling you, and I had this conversation with somebody in the studio last week, and they made the same argument you did, that there's no way AD's team shouldn't be better than this. And I said, you think he's got a roster in New Orleans right now that screams playoffs, contender, or whatever? And he's like, yeah, I definitely think so.
I mean, we think LeBron plus anybody is a playoff team, right?
Yes, and Anthony Davis is not LeBron, and that's what I pointed out to the person that said that. This is where you have to. This is what I'm talking about. This is where you have to get realistic. He's not. I mean, Kevin Durant. So
there's something missing. So then he's not. But
it's not him. What I'm saying, it's not him.
But Kevin Durant and anybody is probably a playoff team, right? Stephen Curry
we assume so.
All right, put Stephen Curry on the Pelicans. Are they a playoff team?
We assume so, but we don't know that. And this is the point, Shoot. This league is more. LeBron's the only dude I can think of that I could hitch my wagon to. As this, I got this one guy, and I'm ready to go. Everybody else, there's still a lingering question mark.
I'll say this about the Pelicans too, and we've talked about this before. Their offense has been top 5. Their defense has been bottom 5. So I would like to know why they haven't been better defensively, why those players haven't been held accountable defensively.
Or maybe they haven't been constructed well enough to be – I mean, let's just look at their roster. Could you pick Trevon Blewett out of a lineup?
I remember he caught fire in the summer league, but I still wouldn't know what he looks like.
If Cheikh Diallo smacked you across the face.
Yes, I know what Cheikh Diallo looks like, yes.
If Tim Frazier and Solomon Hill,
yes, I know what they look like,
accosted you at the grocery store, would you be able to tell the police which one was which?
I've said this before. Like, as far as their defense, they're small, right? They're small on the wings, and that's an issue defensively.
Frank Jackson and Wesley Johnson pull up on you and one of your weekly hoops buddies at the gym and challenge you to 2-on-2. Who wins?
I met Frank Jackson at the rookie photo shoot last summer. He is a handsome young man, by the way.
I'm not knocking the Pelicans players, but for us to assume and somebody's like, well, all these guys in the league have some talent, or they wouldn't be in the league. Well, that's of course, but there are levels to the elite talent, even to that level of talent. I would argue that the Pelicans don't have enough of it for them to be in the same conversation with some of these other teams. It's that simple.
And I can also say that Anthony Davis doesn't have enough of quote unquote it to lift a decent but not very good team up to playoff level in the Western Conference.
And you look, and people have every right. Anthony Davis can be the biggest villain. He can be everything people gonna throw at him now that this is out. It's fair. It's fair game.
Especially now, like after this, he's going to have to turn it up. Like he's got to be an even better player than he's ever been in order to, I don't want to say live this down, but like to justify what he's doing right now.
Absolutely. So Anthony Davis, if you listen, averaging 30 and 13, 2.5 blocks.
You better go consistently contend for championships.
Not enough. It's not enough, bro. I mean, apparently being one of the 5 or 6 greatest players in basketball, it ain't enough. Because no, seriously, it's not. Because as Kevin Durant found out, as LeBron found out when he had to, make up his mind to leave Cleveland the first time around to go chase championships, as good as you are and as talented as you might be in this league right now, one dude is not enough. Just one by himself is not getting it. I don't care, and I don't care which one guy we talk about. LeBron by himself is not enough. He's enough to put you on the path.
James Harden by himself's been pretty good for the last couple months.
Oh, he's been unbelievable. But I'm saying, if you're talking about competing for championships, one dude is not enough. And AD is finding that out. Strangely enough, it's been since 2012. I'll never forget being at the London Olympics and watching the reactions of Kobe and LeBron and KD and Melo and Paul and all these guys watching Anthony Davis up close and personal for the first time, like in practices. I mean, it was a freak show. Every time he got in a game, they freaked out. because I think they recognized the talent and abilities that he had and what might be in store. Would you say since then, Anthony Davis's career has been a disappointment in terms of wins and losses?
Yes.
But certainly not in terms of the development of his talent? He's been every bit the individual talent we thought he'd be, right?
The skills, you see it, but like I said, I think there's an intangible there that's missing. And like we see it, I think we know it when we see it, and maybe we know it when we don't see it. And I thought, like I said, I thought second half of last season it showed up. You know, that dude was on a tear. He was on a tear at the second half of last season, and in that first round of the playoffs,
swept Portland.
And,
did you?
Yeah, they ran into maybe the best team ever in the second round. But I guess this season is definitely a disappointment, not only with the team, but I guess with him individually. If you really thought, if you took that second half of the season into account and thought, that's going to be the Anthony Davis from now on. But hey, he still puts up ridiculous numbers. He still makes some ridiculous plays on both ends of the floor. But
I mean, he's still averaging 29.3 points, 13.3 rebounds, more than 2.5 blocks, 4.5 assists, shooting 50 better than almost 51% from the floor. I mean, the dude's. That's what I'm saying. I don't know that I agree that he's been less than what he's been in the past. Do you think we'd view Steph the same if Clay and these other guys that they've had, that they were part of that original championship team, the ones that are still, if they hadn't kept getting better and hadn't kept evolving as a group? Like, it takes.
It's easier to evolve as an individual and get stronger as an individual with a strong group around.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. And I'm saying I don't think Anthony Davis has had that kind of infrastructure around him that would allow him to keep elevating the group, because it hasn't been the same group. It hasn't been the same core pieces. You know what I mean?
I mean, I hear that argument, but at the same time, if the best he ever did as the best player on his team is last season, and there was some other seasons of not reaching the playoffs, well, that's something we got to take into account when we evaluate him overall.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's fair. It's going to be an already fascinating NBA season. Got even wilder this morning. I'm telling you, literally when I woke up and saw it, and I think I might have emailed or DM'd you and John Hart, so I was like, can't use the language that I use. It's not suitable for family podcasts. But because I wasn't sure this was going to happen. I was thinking, we might actually get through this season without this thing coming to a head until the summer, and he has to decide what to do with that Supermax. By making this declaration today, ahead of the trade deadline, you're right. You mentioned it from the top. He's said, he's made it clear to everybody, Celtics included, that he wants to go to the Lakers. So now it's just a matter of seeing how this thing plays. Like, will the Lakers, to me, this now shifts to the Lakers and whether or not they're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure Anthony Davis joins. Now, like sooner rather than later. Like you could offer up something so wild and, I don't know, get other teams involved. You could come up with the most creative package of all time if you had to, I guess, if you are absolutely hell-bent on getting Anthony Davis on the Lakers.
But the LeBron clock is ticking, and maybe there's an urgency to compete right now and not just use year one with the Lakers as a foundation. Use it as we're competing with the Warriors and right now, right away. And the way to do that is to trade for Anthony Davis, in the next 10 days.
Great. So now nobody sleeps for the next 10 days. That's what we know.
No, I'm going to sleep like right now.
Keep one eye open for the next 10 days. Trade deadline coming up should be craziness. I didn't even ask about the power. I'm sorry. Who's the top 5 in the power rankings this week? I didn't even get a chance to.
Your defending NBA champions, Golden State Warriors, back at number 1 for the first time in like 11 weeks or so, riding a 10-game winning streak with a big win in Boston on Saturday. That's number 1. Number 2, the Milwaukee Bucks fall spot with that loss in Oklahoma City on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Number 3 is Oklahoma City, riding a 5-game winning streak that includes wins over the Bucks, Sixers, I believe, and Blazers, 3 other teams that are in the top 10. Number 4, Denver Nuggets doing their thing still. They have one thing I'll say about the Nuggets, they haven't had their like core four guys, Murray, Harris, Millsap, and Jokic. They've barely played together over like the last month and a half. And so that's they've sort of struggled, not struggled, but they sort of played through a bunch of absences, including Jokic's 1-game suspension last week over the last month and a half. And number 5, the Celtics. Other than that loss, they lost to the Warriors, but they were right there. They're the closest to having knocked off the Warriors during this 10-game winning streak. Offense is still looking pretty strong, and still a Gordon Hayward issue, but still looking pretty good. So there's actually a lot of movement in the top 12 or 13. Right. At the bottom, there was like no movement because the bad teams remain bad, and the Cavs and Bulls split their big home and home series last week, and so that was that.
Yeah, the All-Star reserves will be announced Thursday on TNT. The starters were selected last Thursday after we finished our most recent Hang Time podcast. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, Joel Embiid, Kyrie Irving, and Kemba Walker were the starters in the East. LeBron, Kevin Durant, Paul George, Steph Curry, and James Harden, the starters in the West. Shu, I'm not going to go through the grind of asking you about your reserves on either side. I'll
say some the easy ones for me in the East. Like the name, like I haven't really done a ton of digging to figure out who my 7 reserves would be, but the ones I wrote down in the East easily without hesitation were Ben Simmons, because I had him as a starter, Bradley Beal because he was my sort of second choice as a starter, and Blake Griffin. And then Vucevic I wrote down pretty quickly, and Oladipo I wrote down pretty quickly, and obviously he's going to need an injury replacement. Sure. So that's a good thing about him. You can actually get 13 All-Stars in the East because you put Oladipo in and you can add somebody. And then after that, so that's 5. And then after that, with 3 more spots, including the Oladipo injury replacement, I'm just dumbfounded a little bit, just trying to figure out who the other 3 would go. I had Bledsoe, D'Angelo Russell, Kyle Lowry, Chris Middleton, even Sabonis is a possibility. In the West, first 3 were easy: Anthony Davis, Nikola Jokic, Damian Lillard. 1, 2, 3 were automatics for me. And then after that, I had a sort of a list of 5 guys that I thought were probables. Were Tobias Harris, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, Russell Westbrook, LaMarcus Aldridge. And so that is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 8. Is that 8?
Klay Thompson?
Wow.
You didn't think Klay won?
Yeah, Klay Thompson was the one that I'm like, I don't know. And so wait, I just named 8 guys. So that's 1 too many. Jeez, we need a 13-man All-Star roster.
Some people tell you need more than that, but it's an argument for another day.
Anyway, so that's a very indefinite list on my part.
Sure, no, it'll work itself out. Obviously, Thursday we'll find out on TNT. I'll be curious to see what the coaches come up with. They got a lot on their plate. Obviously, picking the reserves.
I'm glad it's not up to me.
Yeah, there are a lot of options. I'm spent. I've been thinking about Anthony Davis and this whole thing all day. I'm serious. I need to take a mental health break here for like 15 minutes now. After
I've been unplugged from Twitter for the last hour. So who knows what's happening?
Yes, I don't know. I leave that Twitter business up to you. We appreciate you entertaining us all the time on social media. 10 days to the trade deadline. I'll leave it at that. 10 days. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then, but we'll be sure to talk about it. We'll be back Thursday with another episode of the Hang Time Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Hang Time on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes all season long. Make sure you leave a review. The Week 15 Power Rankings are NBA.com. Check those out. Get a detailed information about all 30 teams, not just the top 5. And we will see you right here next time on the Hang Time Podcast. I'm on the Hang Time Podcast.